Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever wondered about Django Composite Keys? Yeah, here we are with Simone and Michel. Thank you!
So, can you hear me? Yes, I think so. We have to speak about this long ticket that started 7 years ago. And we won't skip the introduction because you see in the video. But what is about this ticket?
So, as most of you probably know, currently Django has this limitation that each model has to contain exactly one model field which acts as a primary key. So basically each table managed by Django has to have exactly one column acting as the primary key. Well, what we are aiming for is to add support for tables which have a primary key spanning multiple columns. And by extension, Django, well, supports foreign keys and all this stuff, so we need also a way to point to such tables with foreign keys. So this is what this all is about.
So also for the foreign key, it's important. The support for the foreign key, because the primary key have two columns, but there are DBA that design the database with the relations with the other two columns, the same column, but in another table, no? And that also is not supported by Django. So it's not only the foreign key, there is one-to-one field, many-to-many fields, all the stuff are involved in the same problem. So why bother? Because in my experience, I met some customer that I needs the composite key because they have DBA, people that don't want put the primary key as a long, as an integer, as a unique key. So how we can manage this situation and how we can use Django in this situation?
Okay, yeah. Eventually, well, when you design a database in the traditional way, usually when you create a many-to-many relationship, you just slap in a table containing two columns, and yeah, the two columns are perfectly fine as a primary key. This is not possible with Django. Django adds in a third column, an ID automatically. So eventually, we might even go as far as making Django omit this ID column in many-to-many intermediary tables. But to get this in, first database migrations would have to be implemented in Django. So that's a kind of a long-term goal.
So these are the three major issues open that the core team spoke about 7 years ago. The first is the use of the third application that use the object meta PK, and they expect a field. And when you ask to the object the PK, for example, the admin is one of the application built on this assumption. So we have to insert the support for the composite key, but we don't want lose the back compatibility with all applications that are running now. So the second is for the generic key that a lot of for example, the tagging or the log admin applications use the generic key for relation all kind of model. How we can manage the problem is how we can manage this situation using for the relation from a generic key, a generic table with an object ID with a complex key with multiple values.
Okay, the third one is that we need a way to somehow use this composite value in the URLs of the admin, for example. So we need somehow to turn it into a string and back again. Okay, so now we will show you the API we propose to create such models. The first example, it's a fairly basic one. You have two model fields, name and author. These are just regular character fields, and to turn them into a primary key, you create a composite field. You tell it author and name are wrapped by it, and the composite field is the primary key. So the second example shows, this should work with all the usual stuff you are used to with Django. So if you create a concrete subclass of this book model, it should work. So here the book with content model should contain a one-to-one field pointing to book. This should work automatically. Okay, a couple more examples. The biography model, it contains a one-to-one field pointing to a book, and this one-to-one field is a primary key itself. So here we have two things combined together. One-to-one field is in fact a composite field, and it's a primary key as well. So this should work.
The chapter, in the sample of the chapter, you can see that the composite key, the composite field, take only two fields, but if you remember the book have two columns, so we can see only two fields in this model, but it exists three columns built. That one is the number, one is the book author, and one is the book name. So if the question is, if with this API, how I can manage the DB column for the author name of other parts of the key?
Basically, with regular model fields, you can if you want to customize the name of the column in the database, for example, for this positive small integer field, you just add a DB column equals something as a parameter.
Works.
Okay. So now we will show you a way to do this with composite fields, because all happens automatically. Well, not in this case. So if you want to customize the database columns or any other attributes of the constituents of a composite model field, you have to specify all the required underlying fields explicitly, and then tell the foreign key or one-to-one field to use those instead of creating its own. So this is a short overview of the API. Let's talk about how we implement this.
So,
So we'll return to the problem of generic foreign keys. So basically, you have when you create a generic foreign key, it consists of two model fields. One is content type, which is an ID of a table, of a model, and then you have an object ID, which is actually the foreign key pointing into this table. This works quite well as long as the table pointed to has one column as its primary key. Well, to support composite primary keys pointed to by generic foreign keys, we need to do, again, something similar to what we need with admin URLs. So we need to create one value which contains all the required information. One specific thing we need to keep in mind is that there is a thing called reverse generic relation, I think. This allows you to join any model with a model containing a generic foreign key. So, to support this, the encoding of a composite value needs to be reproducible at database level. So the database can take the values of composite keys in the tables and join them automatically without resorting to Python code.
So we did two different approaches because we work on two different projects. Last year, on November, for a customer that needs this solution, I tried to develop a project, but I didn't fork the Django, but I insert a new application. So you can use just install the pip install Django Composite Key in your application. Obvious that the fork is more stable, and Michel, with the support of Google Summer Code in last year, in the summer, fork the Django with the official support of the core team. So this is obvious the first different approach, but there is other different things that we implement. For example, I just for the multiple key of composite key, because we have changed the name in these days for support the API. I extend the autofield because it was the more easy, because it's for Django have a lot of behavior different for the autofield in a lot of situations. And I patch all parts where SQL was involved in this. When I say patch, I say I monkey patch that change at runtime level the methods of the Django source code. So my aim was modify a little as possible the code, so to have a few lines of code that implement this situation.
Okay, my approach is slightly more complex. We had to add another level of abstraction. So basically, at the moment in the Django ORM, you have a strong one-to-one mapping between model fields and the database columns. I created something called virtual fields, which kind of breaks this mapping. So you have a virtual field which is not actually backed by any single database column. Something similar is already in place for generic foreign keys. The problem with generic foreign keys is that they are basically just special cased everywhere, anywhere needed. So yeah, there's a thing called virtual fields in model._meta, but it's not really sufficient for this. So I ditched all of this, rewrote generic foreign key support, well, basically from scratch. So
the Django Composite Key is you can download from GitHub, and it's based on testing approach, testing-driven approach. Because I was very few time to implement this situation, I really didn't do the work that Michel did, because I take the Django test suite and copied the main test case that are in the test suite. I change with the API the test of the model, and I run the test. Where the system breaks, I put a monkey patch. So I want to just show that the admin, that you are always see. You, sorry, maybe I have to. If you go in, in the test project, I want to show you before the SQL all command that produce the tables. Okay, so for example, book, you can see that it's a primary key and with outer name, and the book real is the extension. So have the PTR changed by these two columns. There is a foreign key, and there is also the primary key. For example, there is the many-to-many that we spoke about, the intermediate table that have not the primary key, but a single primary key, but have a complex situation. And all this stuff, I don't want to bother you. Can run. It's managed by Django without problem. If I go to sviluppare applicazione Django of Marco Berry, we can see in the URL the encoding of the primary key. So it's quoted. Each value is quoted, and it's one near the other. So it's joined. And also work the chapters, that is the same. So we can add the second. Which is the second? And all its work. Another thing that we can see is the many-to-many, just the libraries. Room have two big books, very important. One is and the other is the Yoris book that have to write the Bible of USGI. So all its work, obvious, it's a little bit complex. Another thing I want to show you is the Django tests. Here we can see, I don't know if you can see, but there is all the test suite. We had, I had the composite models test. Sorry. But there are a lot of, you cannot see anything, so don't worry. Chiran test, it's for running the test, but for example, test setting. This is, I add the support for SQLite, Oracle, Postgres, and MySQL. Obvious that I expect the people send me the bugs. but the tests pass, all pass. So obvious that this is the part that I have to I'd modify. The raw query was a problem. Someone opened my ticket. The wherein is very complex because if you have multiple key, the in clause is a little bit complex. The single in tuple. So some database, for example, wherein support the tuple of in clause, but there are other that don't support. So there is a different problems. For example, the subquery also support a very big problem. The deferred feature is also supported. A lot of things. And for example, I implement automatically the natural manager. So the extension of the manager classical with the get natural key implemented. So because in the composite, it's obvious that the natural is composed by all the keys of the composite.
Okay, so now let me talk about my implementation, the kind of official one. So as I said before, I created a virtual field. This field acts basically as a general purpose descriptor type field, which doesn't necessarily have to be backed by the database. Composite field is a subclass of this, which takes care of all the conversion to string and back and all this. Okay, composite fields basically support mainly the three options listed here: DB index, unique, and primary key. Most of the other options are don't make a whole lot of sense in this context. So I don't know yet. That maybe they'll be just silently ignored. Maybe they're out. We'll have to decide. Okay, composite value in my implementation is represented by a subclass of named tuple. So you can just assign a list of values or a tuple of values to a composite field, and it just works automatically. The subclass is required to make it possible to automatically convert the value to a string and back again. Yeah, and as far as query set lookups go, only exact and in are supported. I don't think any others make much sense. Less than and greater than comparisons are I think not supported by most databases. So the workaround is probably not worth it. Oh, sorry. Okay, there are foreign keys currently are kind of a dump model field type as far as the database goes, and as far as the values go, because basically all the foreign key class does is it handles all the relationship stuff like joins and the descriptors and all this, but when asked for a DB type or to process a value, it just defers this operation to the target field. So how can we modify the foreign key class to support composite targets? There are basically two approaches. One is that we keep it mostly the way it works now. We just need to make sure it's possible for foreign key to manage multiple database columns within one model field. This turns out to be really difficult because for example, the model constructor is just passed in a list of values fetched from the database, and it assumes each of the values can fill one model field. in this case, this would not be possible. I tried for about a week to refactor this, but it's really difficult. I couldn't come up with a working solution. Neither could Jacob, who was my mentor, so we gave up on this. Instead, we tried to refactor foreign keys, to turn them into a virtual field, which really only handles the relationship stuff, and to store the local value, it uses an auxiliary field in the local model. So how this works is that you may know foreign key and one-to-one field are basically the only field types whose attribute name doesn't match their name. So they occupy two attributes in each model. At name is basically name with underscore ID appended. So the way this works is that foreign key creates another helper field with the name equal to the foreign key's at name. To keep backwards compatibility, I had to implement a way to create these auxiliary fields automatically, because it would be kind of annoying to have to create a helper field in addition to a foreign key each time you want a relationship. The code that implements this is quite ugly, I'd say. I really couldn't come up with a better solution, but the problem is at the moment the foreign key is created and its model is initialized, the target model may not have been loaded yet. So it all needs to happen in a lazy way. Another thing is, yes, basically I just copy the target field instance, add it to the local model, except for one specific case when the target field is an auto field. This happens quite often. You can't afford to add an auto field automatically to the local model, because it might have already been added before. You might have another primary key in your local model. So in this case, I need to modify the auxiliary fields class to an integer field. So I really tried to avoid this, but couldn't come up with a better solution. Yeah, then to hide the helper field, I set certain attributes to false, like serialize, unique. All this stuff is handled by the foreign key already. And also form field is replaced by none, so that an additional field doesn't show up in all your forms. Okay.
So the question is, why 7 years? Why there are a lot of time that we expect this feature in Django? Probably it's because it's break a very strong assumption that say that one database column is one field, and it's a big assumption because it's a lot of internal has done with this assumption. So we think this is the motivation that there is a lot of time. Also, there are other motivation of the design, because you know that this historical moment, the database are the last one column don't cost a lot, and repeat the value that's in some when some years ago you put for example the name of the anagraphic in a lot of tables, because you want that in that table without a join you can access to the data. But actually with the time that have the response that have the database, one join is not so complicated. So usually the best practice is that one column for primary key is perfect. So many people don't think that this is a design solution well for the future. But if we want support database-driven approach, that is not mine. We have to insert this feature in Django. So here there are the references. If you want to read the history of the ticket 373, you can read a lot of comments, more than the Star Wars parts before. And there are our GitHub accounts with the projects. If you will join us, you can join tomorrow in the morning because we did a sprint. And we want support, adding support for the primary key in Django. And for now, in these days, we did a lot of sprints of 1 hour to create an aggregation. So the composite key, actually, with a funny import, can support directly the API that we described before. So,
right. So join us tomorrow. Basically, anyone can help. We need people to write tests, to write documentation, to discuss the API. You don't need to be an expert on Django's ORM to be able to help us. So feel free to join us. We'll be glad.
Also, if someone feels that can do the code review of our codes, can help us. That's all.
Thank you. So, question time. Any questions?
Hi, just a thought off the top of my head from watching the previous talk as well about using getters and setters with descriptors and things. Is there a need for a primary key to be associated with a column? A primary key could be a property which is kind of then looked up across the columns. It's that direct association that means you're kind of doing a workaround to create a fake standard field in the model, which then maps with your kind of list of columns, if you like. But if the whole primary key lookup, by default, it would be associated directly to a column, but the primary key as a thing would exist in a separate kind of metadata on the class. Maybe I'm just, yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure I understand the question. I mean, you mean that we could get rid of all the underlying fields and just use the primary key as a single field, or?
No, I mean that the primary key, it wouldn't always be needing to be associated with a field. So if a primary key property would be something that fields could have, and then based on that, that could be associated with more than one field. But anyway, it's just a...
I think it's kind of a design issue. The API we talked about has been agreed by the core team. There have been other proposals that have been rejected, so this one got the blessings of the core team.
So is it so which of the two approaches is it been decided? It's the second approach that you were talking about. That you,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Does it work with multiple databases?
Yes, there are no problems.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, as long as you don't do things like cross-database foreign keys, which I think don't work anyway. But otherwise, the features are orthogonal to each other. So.
Because I
No
use
issues.
such a field as cross-database foreign keys, and it works pretty well. And does it work with this stuff?
I'm sorry?
Does it work with cross-database foreign keys?
Well, actually,
trying.
I don't know whether these work at all with simple.
It works, believe me.
Okay. I don't know anything about it, but well.
Hi, you told that this is the approved approach, the second one. Is there a timeline of introduction in the trunk field of Django? Is just something you have to plug in your installation if you want to use it? So will it be a core feature of Django, or just something you will have to use?
It will be eventually merged into Django. You see, well, this is the point of having two projects. One of the projects is a pluggable app which you can use for the time being, and once the official patch is ready for merging, it will get in. I intend to work on this throughout the summer to get all the small details fleshed out, so we could proceed with this. But we'll see what kind of success this meets.
Does this also affect tables without any primary keys and the way Django handles those?
Oh, you mean without any primary key at all?
Yes.
Well, I don't think currently Django supports something like this, but well, worst case you could work around this by creating a composite primary key spanning all the fields. I think semantically it would be quite close. I don't know your use case, so depends.
For instance, an append-only table with just log records without a key.
Sorry? Oh.
An append-only table without any primary key. That's the use case.
Okay. I don't know.
Actually, if you support this, you cannot see there are a lot of applications that have an assumption that when you ask APK, also if the attribute is called name or something like that, or is complex, but when you ask APK, you have always a value. So if you put all the column in this as primary key, and your database is built by you, and you don't insert the primary key, it's work.
Just that, mostly all database operations performed by the ORM use the primary keys. They can't work without assuming there is a primary key, so you have to fake it somehow at least.
So you said that you had to rewrite the generic foreign keys, and if I'm using it in my app, should I change my code base if I want to use your composite key?
Nope, everything's supposed to be backwards compatible. So all existing code which isn't using any internal APIs should work even after the change.
And what are the efficiency costs if you have composite key of 2 or 10 elements? Did you check it or something like that?
I haven't measured anything in this direction yet.
The efficiency for the complex data primary key, it's the question?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the difference between one
If I have to design the database, I will put only one primary key auto number. That's the best practice. If there is a DBA or someone that designed the database in different approach, the efficiency will lose some.
but possibly how? It's like what will be a cost of using this composite key?
Actually, when you do the query, so into the database, you use the single values. So the efficiency is it's like a query with a multiple primary key. The concatenation of the string is only for the rest of the word, because we in our approach we modify the backends internals, but all the rest, so the forms, the admin, and the third-part application use the PK as string. But before the Python code, there is a SQL that are efficiently.
Do you have any kind of I know, queries that you can show us that how the query sets would look like?
You want to see a query?
For a composite key, yeah?
Why not?
We cannot see anything.
This is the query, and we can see from oh, it's obvious, it's stupid query, but sorry.
.pk.
Thanks. So you look here. Yes. I can also.
Is it better?
So it's obvious that the SQL is built with the single values, not the complex. Okay? The question?
Okay. Yeah, we don't have time, unfortunately. But yeah, you can always continue outside or here, just if you wish to stay a bit more. Okay. Thank you very much, both of you.